Yes, and a good morning. Right at this time, Bob Sherman usually comes in and says, hello, everybody. Well, I'll say it for him. Hello, everybody, because he's busy in the auditorium. We have a very special edition of the Listening Room for you today, an 11th anniversary party from the WQXR Auditorium, and Bob Sherman will welcome 3 distinguished musicians for live performances. There's the pianist Nadja Reisenberg, the clarinetist David Glazer, and the violist Milton Katims. Now, we had also hoped to have Benny Goodman with us, but scheduling problems unfortunately interfered, so that visit is going to have to be deferred to another date. But in any event, we'll get started in just a couple of moments after an early excursion to the Met.
This winter is a time to sing for joy. The Metropolitan Opera is back with a season of one grand opera after another. And this winter is the time for operas that touch every emotion. The thunder of Verdi's Un ballo in maschera, the sparkling coloratura of Rossini's L'Italiana in Algeri, the genius of Mozart's Magic Flute, and one of the grandest operas of them all. The awesome tragedy of Wagner's Tristan und Isolde. These are moments that will echo in your heart again and again. And now is the time to purchase your tickets for the sheer joy of it all. At the Met.
And don't miss the special non-subscription Cavalleria Rusticana and Pagliacci tomorrow, and the season premiere of Un ballo in maschera Monday. Come to the Met box office or call 580-9830. 580-9830. And don't miss the next 2 hours with Bob Sherman and friends, so let's go right to our auditorium right now.
Thank you, George. Good morning, everybody. This is indeed a very special edition of the Listening Room. We are marking our 11th anniversary. And as usual, on these birthday occasions, Nadja Reisenberg is with us. My mother has been a guest on various programs many times. She has, you've heard her on First Hearing and all sorts of places. But on this January occasion, we like to snag her, and we put her to work learning all sorts of new repertory, and as you will hear later on when we get to the Hindemith and so forth. Joining us today, David Glazer, the clarinetist, who was my very first guest in the Listening Room. We started this program just as an idea of having, well, I don't know why we started this program, actually, but the idea was just for me to play recordings and comment on them. And at one point, David, I think, had some unusual recordings that he had made in Europe, and we decided, let's try an interview and see how it goes. And it went well enough that we, of course, adopted that procedure, and now hardly a day, if any, goes by without some conversations. David started it all. I am thrilled that he is back with us. He is a distinguished clarinetist and, of course, distinguished teacher. He's on the faculty at the State University of Stony Brook, as well as the Mannes College in New York. I am also very happy indeed that Milton Katims is back with us. Milton has pretty well escaped our clutches these many years because he has been, first of all, for some 20 years, he was at the Seattle Symphony, where he was music director. Then he moved to Houston. He is now artistic director of the University of Houston School of Music. Once in a while, we snagged him when he came through New York, once when he was playing at the Mostly Mozart. But at any rate, he is with us also to celebrate this anniversary occasion. All right, we've talked enough. Let's get to music. The first of our pieces is a sonata in B-flat by Jan van Hal, who was a Bohemian composer, a contemporary of Mozart. And this is a work that I remember Mother and David Glazer playing long years ago, and I'm very happy that we'll be able to hear it again. It's in 3 movements: Allegro moderato, Adagio cantabile, and Rondo.
And now the music section, 50th anniversary edition. This is George Edwards, and before we look ahead to some of this week's major music stories and concerts, here is a quick look at the front page headlines for today, October 25th, 1936. Kansas Governor Alf Landon, speaking to some 14,000 listeners at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, blasted President Roosevelt's foreign policy as ruthless and called on America to mind its own business. And speaking of business, New York's Governor Lehman hailed the business revival, and he declared that Roosevelt New Deal brought all America to an upward spiral that will continue for the foreseeable future. As the Spanish Civil War continues, insurgent tanks are leading an 11-mile push to tighten the circle around Madrid. Meanwhile, in Bologna, Mussolini extended an offer of peace, backed, as he put it, by 8 million bayonets. In sports, Princeton, Dartmouth, and Yale were in the winning column, with upset wins over Navy, Harvard, and Rutgers. And Seabiscuit took the Scarsdale handicap. The weather, fair, somewhat warmer today, the high around 57. And now, on to the music section, which on page 7 has a report from Czechoslovakia about the long-awaited world premiere of Antonin Dvorak's First Symphony. It is clearly a youthful work, and parts of it echo Schubert and Beethoven, wrote the Times correspondent in Brunn, but other pages point plainly to the future, with the vitality of the young Dvorak and his vein of real humor clearly stamped upon the score. A portion of Dvorak's First Symphony, a work which is still unpublished, but finally in this month of October 1936 received its world premiere in Czechoslovakia. The lead article in today's music section is by the Times chief critic Olin Downs, who went west to check out the concert scenes in Cincinnati and Philadelphia. The time has arrived, he writes, when one part of the country can no more remain isolated from the other parts in music than it can in laws and trade. The radio has seen to that. People today may listen locally to actual performances, or hear them on the air as they choose. Musical performances in other places than the one in which the individual finds himself are no longer remote or theoretical matters. And Mr. Downs went to hear what he calls Mr. Stokowski's crack orchestra in Philadelphia, under the direction of the new incumbent Eugene Ormandy. And the following evening heard Eugene Goossens conducting the opening program of the season at the head of the Cincinnati Symphony. His verdict? There would be no comparison between these orchestras and, let us say, the far-famed Vienna Philharmonic. The orchestras here are so much the better. 6.5 minutes after 8 o'clock, and time now for the advertising news of the day, prepared by Phil Doherty, advertising columnist of the New York Times, and sponsored by Business Week. Business Week, the worldwide business weekly.
The gray eminence of the Goodyear blimp is going to make its appearance in the rubber company's corporate advertising beginning April 31st, and it will be a lovable blimp with all of the endearing qualities of a monstrous teddy bear. It will lend form to the J. Walter Thompson message, "Put the blimp behind you." Don Johnston, the Thompson head man, said, "We take one of the world's best-known corporate symbols and use it to show the pride of a Goodyear consumer." Be it known, Al Silver, Harold Hankin, and Mario Botti of Benton and Bowles, you are beloved by your leader, Jack Bowen, and he has bestowed upon you the title Senior Vice President. Try to be worthy. John Butler, who joined Sperry Univac 21 years ago as a humble sales representative, has now been named to Executive Vice President, Worldwide Marketing and Services. Bellotta, Naparano and Company, another Springfield, New Jersey ad agency, has picked up the Groove Pin Corporation, makers of things that will interest few. In keeping with the philosophy that everything deserves a subsidiary, even a subsidiary, Angel Collado Schwartz, that's hyphenated, says that his Badillo Compton, a Puerto Rican subsidiary of Compton Advertising, has started a public relations subsidiary called Communications Strategists. Don't you just love it? it immediately communicates a feeling that its operators know what they're doing.